So this morning I was reminded of Miles Morales. It took longer to get lighter today than all the other 3,000 hours of 30 days before it's the fourth day of the fourth year. Uh, just like September 4th when Google was created. And last night my card had a scratch on it that I got from the store, my gift card, and I had to report it. And then when I went to sleep, I had to break through something about 2004 before a girl, high school, a girl before a different feeling of the Simeon versus Amundsen. It's the common emotions that people feel at a certain level of bond. You see, so someone will claim that they have different feelings and different thoughts about going to sports, or a woman at a certain 2004. It's not just an age; it's a collaboration of a time in the world and universe that relates to a subject of what most people were that age under a certain time frame. If there was an old man or a gang life, or if there was something that this morning I continued to log into my Microsoft because I was looking for something for my PayPal because I got my net spend related to the Mint Mobile when I put my Nintendo Switch and I got it back. It's now a different day when I might get my pay, but I took the earliest shower that I ever did after the longest poop, and the day a couple days. So today it's not really returned to in October. It's like a shit means something different in October for a different nation than it means in the March of a low year. So some people were rising from 1800 prospecting what the world would be like in the year 2000, and now it's already 24 years later. And it's like sometimes when I continued this morning to my PayPal, I finally added my Crossroads 1619 to my Microsoft, and all of the files that I used to work with for the last three Octobers and the last three Januaries after the October starting from 2021, skipping the beginning of the last three. It would relate to the last. How could there only be 3 years before? But I only already took in uh, 15 showers inside of 1 month. How could there be more in one and there, but there be less in plural, but there's less inside of those mass objects of smaller invites of days, months, and seasons. So when I went to my PayPal account, I was trying to link it inside a box because I'm trying to recover my notable verbs. And I hear a lot of scammers outside, and I talked to AI last night, but it's a big difference of returning to each morning after the 15th of September to payment. And my Google is returning to the nights that led up to the uh, uh, game that kind of changed the season that's been changed so many times since 2004, but also before Des Plaines and after 2014, and before Swedish Return and after 2015, where I said that something about the change in uh, high school football is already on file, but it might mean something different a day later on the fourth day, or the Lucky Charms happen in the 24th year. But 2004 was also Lucky Charms. If I look up the calendar, I could see patterns of 2020, patterns of 2000 can mean five different things in January, five different things depending on the three triangles, five different things in October at a different age. It might return to an odd group of 4 10 years before from the 90s and 2005 when it can't stretch out above 90 pairs. So this morning, Alpha Alpha Samson Lamentations would be the middle of the name, the current intelligence of what is going on since my last 2022 also went to October after Romy got my card, because sometimes it's really helpful to have a chance at a ball up on the Simeon green card, because sometimes when I got the card out the roof, it's the process of how it was stored inside an apartment after a certain half odd age, after a different year of that apartment was accessed with that address in a different area of the year or state that relates to the sun tick, related to public buildings, related to the public sector, and all the type of architecture that relates to the public, of how humans' behavior is related to a calendar or a group of information systems that relate to when I put the lotto ticket behind the Power Rangers DVDs before I got a chance to access a new account on this calendar page where I did my video because it could relate to this section right here because it means something different in this light of the sun. After the main game, we would think that it would just go on to the NBA season, but now it takes time to get emotionally adjusted to the way the reason why people have to go to school is because people will say, "Oh, we didn't have nobody." But what if some people are born great? What if some people are born in the difference? You could even almost be great, but almost great is not the same way. So sometimes people have to figure out what they're going to do with their life and how they're going to adjust to that life lesson. Because when you have a season, it's not about not being on the team. It's about when things get emotional on an emotional level where people start comparing to people in the shootout at a young time when people can't pick themselves up from a mid-range reality check. So sometimes that's why people will say, "What about these kids senior year going to a?" It's not just when I was uh, in school, I was a sophomore, and then I went to a different school. But if it's a senior, people will be like, why is it that a senior has a late reality check senior year against teams that have been doing this for a long time, claiming that people can't get to private education because people have to follow the rules of what things come? Because just like football, there's competition in the private world because that's why coaches have to set goals even when the school is done. It's not just being responsible as the football player, it's being responsible of the coach and getting kids access to being a regular student so that they don't use football to try to seem that they're some type of untouchable star related to something that they can't get access to the other world, that people have to do what they have to do to uh, uh, fall in line, you see, because that's the way it works. So when people pay taxes, some of these teachers, they've been around for a minute. They know how to cook Indian food. They know how to do a basic literature. So sometimes when people have rights to be there, they would have been in the Super Bowl if they could, but they have to follow the common sense and the social security of America of why people speak about things and they have common relations because a local war can start. Someone can lose their social security. Sometimes people can speak about things and they can isolate people. So people don't like that because they work hard. Because they have to, it's not about working hard, it's about doing what you got to do to be accepted on that level socially so that you're not outcasted all the time when you want to get benefits that come emotionally. You don't even have to be a superstar, but if you want to get the same emotional benefit as people who are in their right minds, then that's how it goes. See? So nobody is stressed about someone thinking that they're going to play 15 games of high level football and be some type of loss in the world because college football has stars and it also has basic places that relate to areas that are not hot when they get time to study people up to a certain extent when the way that God works or people could have a lot of population but the way that God works will always work unless there's a social population of a presidential time where something might rise in the universe related to a different opinion on the ways that God works. So in the Bush presidency, I think I had my compact computer, and it wasn't until 2009, not 2007, when the Barack got related to a different eight would be because two terms. You telling me 2004 was one president, but two terms would be eight already, age eight, grade eight, term eight, 2008. So that's all under 24 of numeral, under a calendar in October, under 13 year of the beginning because October defines 10 connections to the sun of all months, but January provides a different Libra approach for the fourth year of the election of the presidential fiscal year outside of the fifth year after a four and the fifth year after an Olympics, the fifth year after a number and the fifth year in a decade after the opposite reverse coming from the other side of a championship at the end or a middle of election or something that might have a form. And when I put the combination of my videos for information in one file and outside and upload it in one list, the title that I put might affect the location that it is in the format list versus the subject list, which would be how people could teach things. But what if someone says, hey, I want to teach it like that, I want to teach it my own way? That's why people have principals and people above the principals who make sure that kids have an opportunity to go to university. But if they're not social, they're not going to be prepared for university. So some people make small schools, they make small things, but sometimes there's things that a school has, like clubs, certain ones that make people want to finish school because it makes things. So when they put me in the Amazon, I didn't agree that it was for me, and I came from a black school, and then they tried to say that I wasn't intelligent enough to build my life, but they claimed that I had schizophrenia because they were trying to study me and say that when they locked me in a psych hospital with white people and didn't let me leave until they injected me with medication when I was naked, they claim that I can't prove my belief in rights of God and the level of the private operating system of compensation that relates to them evicting me from my apartment and saying that they were trying to get the rest of me, but they claim that they're social and they want to get rights to things because they don't have to follow the rules with things that I built in America in relation to God and my belief in God, from Stonehenge in history without sex and mind, from Virgin Islands before things was a different way, in Street Fighter before PS3 and Dreamcast before Nintendo Switch after the 90s, any Mortal Kombat game and Nintendo Super Nintendo before whatever Xbox uh, original was released after uh, Nintendo 64 in the 1997 before I was in second grade. So sometimes I do have, like when I was 18, there's also a 2018, 2007, 7 year, also 2027 yet to come. Five numbers on and three bars. And I think that my Google account had a bend of extra numbers at the end. So when I asked the Lord, what is his purpose for creating a church with three areas, three front back pews, and three floors? What would that mean for 2018 and age 8 and 90 and second decade, and then 2018 related to the third decade could also be fourth and plural. Seven could be an image, or it could also be a transaction to different things of when I was these ages, when I had my adventures in America, in Newport News, and when I was in 4 years old in the Virgin Islands versus the fourth day today, 2014 versus the fourth day today. Sometimes it could be the Mediterraneans because I don't have. What if I didn't have access to a video that was 30 hours long, but I couldn't remember one thing in it, and I had 3,000 and 20,000 of those videos that were 3 hours long, but I couldn't remember one thing in the frame until there was something like an object outside of the box, like inside of a time of the year that has a different color of the sky that would mean something completely different depending on if I woke up or if I came from an adventure or if I came from a different state of a different sunrise outside of a different 11th or a 10th or a year that might have related to a time that I already was when someone was already attacking me before school, because it's before 2x, after 824, before first Skokie, when I was already getting attacked before people existed, longer 20 didn't even exist, but attacking me after a time frame of people just like them before. A number can't relate to a date without an object of incline. An incline can't relate to an object of flatness, of a progression of flat throughout a combination of the morning sunrise at a certain angle has a different incline than other week parts of the week and other uh, uh, zodiacs. It related to the definition inside of a month at a time frame that's not related to the sun or fiscal difference of NFL 2 years versus season in the high school related to 23-24, but it's not related to the back season. That's a state of going backwards. When the year 24 doesn't start in January, it's not connected to the last fiscal year. It's the back state to state, because 23-24 back October is not December to January, and January front is not January to October, because there means there's a different relation to the German and Greek calendar of Julius that could relate to the sides of the Hebrew language that relates to the sun and the planets in that superior study for that area that could flip something without the meridian in America and the prime meridian and the different areas of the jungles in Europe. That does not just necessarily mean Africa, Egypt, and Afghanistan, you see, or the British colonies, a British related area of colonial royalties and things like that. You see, so in America, there wasn't just Indians, there was people who got away in history because sometimes when the Lord says he wants people to preach the gospel, there's Uncle Tom's Cabin came after slavery. It's not the only depiction from literature about economies of how someone might be able to access something from a thousand of years in one moment, but if it's not available, they have to go with the times of the social times to show people around how people might get the best of them if it wasn't for someone pointing things out and making it available to whatever format system was available. Because if someone deleted the format system, then how could someone create a private system if they didn't have an account? When I talked to the AI and I said information can be arranged in a certain way that causes memory and input systems in emotion. When I say they have a hidden agenda, trying to put people in the screen and confuse people about the AI when they search on the engine because they might have a big head or they might have a low one. Someone might want to be feminine, they might want to be pretty, they might want to have some type of connection to not being have a big head on a screen. That real beauty might not need a boundary to say that someone was trying to empower themselves by identity different people in America at this advanced nation time of old men who already existed, and when Titanic was released versus young people trying to scam people in a nasty way, trying to bring people back to an old state when the progression of young America was already far off into off the coastline into the ocean far enough to make an advancement of human rights and necessities of fruits and apples. That's not a scam of the 90s of things that is out of combobulation with big heads and people with mental illness that can't be related to a tribe of God of clearness and association to the spirit of peace and righteousness, you see. So sometimes when I look at my video, I've been doing my films since I was 1998 when I was 7 years old, and I always progress with the ideological boundary around how I do that because someone might say that when their eyes was open when I was doing my thing before my tattoo shop, before PNC Bank place, Starbucks cut placement, people might have been offended when their eyes was open and tried to harass me and stalk me and try to say I was isolated when you have the audacity to stalk me in your isolation when you're trying to hide from people that you claim you were so tough about, trying to isolate me when you can't even face those people because you claim it's my fault that you're isolated and you were the isolated one, not me when I prove my belief in God, science, literature, film, studies, mathematics, science, and the love of God and the art of the definition of my belief and the meaning of the love of the beauty and the art of God. You see? So sometimes people could be really intelligent when they try to isolate me. I'll be like, hey, how are you telling me that I'm isolated, but you're stalking me as if nobody else exists in the world, trying to hide from people because you claim you're trying to steal my sense of depiction and economy that was always in me when some Germans and Nazis might isolate me and say that they can try to steal my identity because I can't prove my American belief about my uploads when a lot of people were harassing me when they locked me in the psych hospital. I just had to deal with it because I like a lot of these people were spitting on the floor and they had their chance to live a life a long time ago. But when I was young and I was praying to God, I said, Lord, I want to live my life in the right way. So when these isolated people rose against me, they didn't just hide in secret. When I got out, found a way out the hospital, they started saying, we're going to stalk you and attack you because they had all the time in the world because they didn't really have people that they claim they associated with at a time they wouldn't break bread, but they claimed they were so intelligent that they try to come out of